All right, let's dive into the music of Gary O'Slide. We've got a stack of info about him and his upcoming album, Poème. It drops in November 26, so we're going to get you prepped to really appreciate it.
Yeah, this new album is really a culmination of his work. We've got info here on his journey through albums like 1922, Alone with Yourself, Mississippi Boy, Du Voyage, Vagabond. Each one is like a stepping stone leading to where he is now with this new release.
So before we hit play on Poème,
Yeah.
can you paint us a picture of these earlier albums? What kind of musical world do they create for the listener?
Well, it's a world of instrumental storytelling, mostly like a blues folk western vibe, really driven by his passion for instruments like the Weissenborn
Okay.
and the dobro square neck.
That's like a soundtrack for a journey through wide open spaces. Speaking of journeys, I'm noticing Du Voyage has a pretty interesting backstory. He has been featured in film soundtracks worldwide.
Yeah, that's Gary O'Slide for you. Connecting with folks across borders through music alone, Du Voyage is all tenor guitar, which interestingly is the sole instrument on Poème as well.
So that's a pretty big clue about the direction of the new album. But before we unpack Poème, there's this really fascinating detail about Gary manufacturing cigar box guitars. That's some hands-on dedication.
Oh yeah, it really speaks to his deep connection to the craft. He's not just a player, he's a maker, which really adds another layer of authenticity to his music.
Okay, let's talk Poème. What's the overall vibe?
So Poème is being described as desert folk blues, mastered at Raighes Factory, where he's released a lot of his work, including his 2020 album Vagabond. But what's really unique here is that focus on just the tenor acoustic guitar. It's like he's stripping everything back to create something really raw and intimate.
And that's a bold move, considering most of his previous albums featured a variety of instruments. What do you think prompted this shift?
It could be a desire for like sonic purity, a way to just explore the full expressive potential of the tenor guitar. Or maybe it's about creating a more intimate, introspective experience for the listener.
It's intriguing. It suggests Poème might be his most personal and emotionally raw album yet.
It's definitely a departure, and that alone makes it one of his most anticipated releases.
Okay, we've set the scene, explored his musical background, and hinted at the unique nature of Poème. Now let's get into the heart of it. What's the track list looking like?
Okay, so we've got 11 tracks to journey through. Celestite, Black Hills, Lost Way, Balade, Renaissance, An Instant, Mélancolie, Mountain Man, Rust, Dead or Alive, and finally the title track, Poème.
11 tracks each with its own story to tell. It seems like we're in for a rich listening experience. Let's start with the opener, Celestite. What kind of mood does this one set?
So Celestite is described as having this shimmering sound, much like the stone it's named after. Imagine gazing up at a night sky filled with stars. It sets a very contemplative, almost ethereal tone for the album.
Okay, so we're starting with a sense of wonder and awe. What comes next?
Next is Black Hills, which takes us on a different journey altogether. Think wide open spaces, vast landscapes. The description mentions slide guitar echoing across those landscapes, creating a sense of freedom and a connection to nature.
It's amazing how he can transport us to these places without using any lyrics. Just the raw power of the instruments. All right, what's next on our sonic adventure?
Track number 3 is Lost Way, and this one feels a little more introspective. The title itself suggests a sense of uncertainty, perhaps a journey of self-discovery. But there's also a hint of hopefulness in the description, a sense of resilience in the face of the unknown.
So we're starting to see a bit of an emotional arc emerge here, moving from contemplation to a more personal journey.
Exactly, and that's what's so exciting about Poème. It's not just a collection of songs, it's a carefully crafted experience.
Let's continue exploring that experience. What does track 4, Balade, have in store for us?
From the description, Balade sounds like a moment of pure peace and tranquility. Imagine like a leisurely stroll through a forest, sunlight dappling through the leaves. It's about finding stillness amidst the chaos.
It sounds like a perfect musical interlude, a moment to catch your breath before diving back into the deeper themes of the album.
Yes, it's a moment of respite, a reminder to slow down and appreciate the simple things.
All right, after this peaceful interlude, where does Renaissance take us?
Renaissance feels like a turning point in the album. The description talks about a sense of renewal, a surge of energy. It's like emerging from a period of darkness into a brighter, more hopeful space.
So we're seeing that emotional arc really taking shape now, from contemplation to uncertainty, a moment of peace, and then this surge of energy and renewal. What a journey.
And we're only 5 tracks in. There's so much more to explore.
Before we delve into the next set of tracks, I want to touch on something that really struck me about Poème so far. It's the way he uses the tenor guitar to express such a wide range of emotions.
It's remarkable, isn't it? He's essentially using a single instrument to tell a multifaceted story, to create a whole world of sound and emotion.
And it makes me wonder why the tenor guitar. What is it about this instrument that lends itself so well to this kind of storytelling?
Well, it's a fascinating choice. The tenor guitar has this unique sound. It's warm, resonant, and incredibly versatile. It can be both delicate and powerful, which allows him to express both vulnerability and strength.
And it seems to fit perfectly with the overall aesthetic of Poème. It's not a flashy in-your-face kind of instrument. It's understated, which adds to the intimacy and emotional depth of the album.
Exactly. It's like he's inviting the listener to lean in, to listen closely, to really feel the music on a deeper level.
All right, I'm eager to hear what the next tracks have in store for us. We've got 6 more to go on this sonic journey.
I'm with you. Each track seems to be a piece of a larger puzzle, and I can't wait to see how it all comes together. Welcome back to our deep dive into Gary O'Slide's world. We left off ready to explore the remaining tracks of Poème.
So let's pick up where we left off. Track 6, Uninstant. What can you tell us about this one?
Uninstant, which translates to a moment, seems to be a reflection on those fleeting moments of beauty we experience in life. The description emphasizes the importance of cherishing these moments, however small they may seem.
I'm intrigued by the use of the French title. It has a certain elegance and sophistication to the track, even before we've heard a single note.
It does, doesn't it? And it makes me wonder if there's a specific story or inspiration behind this piece that might connect to French culture or a particular moment in time.
It's definitely something to listen for as we experience the music. All right, what about track 7? Mélancolie. That title seems to suggest a shift in mood.
Yes, Mélancolie definitely dives into a more somber emotional space, but it's not a heavy, oppressive sadness. The description talks about a sense of acceptance, a gentle acknowledgement of the bittersweet nature of life.
It seems like Poème is really taking us on a full spectrum of emotions. We've had moments of awe, peace, and even a surge of energy. Now we're exploring a more contemplative, introspective side of the human experience.
Exactly, and that's what makes this album so compelling. It's not afraid to explore the full range of human emotions, even the more challenging ones.
Okay, let's move on to track 8, Mountain Man. What kind of picture does this one paint for us?
Mountain Man feels like a celebration of strength and resilience. Imagine someone who lives in harmony with nature, someone who embodies a simple, rugged way of life. The music seems to reflect that spirit, grounded, solid with a sense of unwavering resolve.
It's interesting how he uses music to create these character sketches, these sonic portraits of different ways of being.
It is, isn't it? And it speaks to his ability to tell stories without relying on words. He's using music as his language, and it's incredibly effective.
All right, we're approaching the end of the album now. What does track 9, Rust, have in store for us?
Rust feels like a reflection on the passage of time. The description mentions the beauty of imperfection, the way that time leaves its mark on everything. Think of an old, weathered piece of metal. There's a story etched into every scratch, every bit of rust.
I love that image. It's about finding beauty in the imperfections, in the evidence of a life lived.
Exactly. And musically, I expect this one to have a bit more of a raw, weathered feel, maybe some bluesy elements, something that reflects that passage of time.
Okay, we're down to the final 2 tracks. What can you tell us about Dead or Alive?
This one feels like a reckoning, a confrontation with mortality. The title itself is stark, uncompromising. The description talks about a quiet struggle, a fight for survival.
It sounds intense, maybe even a bit unsettling.
It might be. But it's also likely to be incredibly powerful and moving. There's a vulnerability in confronting those big existential questions, and I think the music will reflect that.
And finally, we arrive at the title track, Poème. What can we expect from this culminating piece?
From the description, Poème sounds like a distillation of everything that's come before it. It's the heart of the album, a moment of quiet reflection, a summation of the journey we've been on.
It's interesting that the title track is also the most minimalist in terms of description. It's almost as if he's leaving it open to interpretation, allowing the listener to bring their own experiences and emotions to the music.
I think that's a brilliant move. After taking us on this incredible journey through a range of emotions and landscapes, he's giving us space to breathe, to reflect, to find our own meaning in the music.
And speaking of journeys, we haven't talked much about Gary O'Slide's own journey as an independent artist. He's not signed to a major label, yet he's managed to achieve some pretty impressive things. His single Outlaw peaked at number 11 on the UK Blues chart, and even went viral on TikTok.
That's right. And his single Winchester also charted in several countries, reaching number 12 on the UK Blues chart. It really speaks to the power of his music to connect with a global audience, even without the backing of a big label.
And we can't forget Blue Devils. His masterful use of the slide guitar in that track really showcases his blues roots. It's clear he's a talented musician. But what do you think it takes to succeed as an independent artist in today's music industry?
It takes a lot of hustle, for sure. You're responsible for everything recording, promoting, distributing your music. But I think the most important thing is to have a clear artistic vision and to stay true to that vision.
And it seems like that's exactly what Gary O'Slide is doing. He's creating the music he wants to create, and he's finding an audience that appreciates his unique voice.
Absolutely. And the fact that he's releasing Poème solely on the tenor guitar is another example of that artistic conviction. He's not afraid to take risks, to experiment, to push boundaries.
Okay, we've explored all 11 tracks of Poème. We've talked about Gary O'Slide's journey as an artist, and we've touched on the challenges and rewards of being an independent musician. As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are your overall thoughts on what we've uncovered so far?
What stands out to me is the sheer depth and complexity of Gary O'Slide's music. He's not just creating catchy tunes, he's crafting experiences, sonic landscapes that invite us to explore a range of emotions and ideas.
I agree, and I'm especially excited to hear how he uses the tenor guitar to tell these stories, to create these moods and atmospheres.
Me too. It's a testament to his talent and his willingness to push the boundaries of what's possible with a single instrument.
All right, we'll be back for part 3 of our deep dive into Gary O'Slide's world, where we'll offer some final reflections on his music and its lasting impact. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Gary O'Slide. We've covered a lot of ground from his earlier albums to the upcoming Poème. As we wrap up, I'm curious about the lasting impact of his music. What makes Gary O'Slide stand out in such a crowded musical landscape?
I think it's that combination of his technical skill and his emotional depth, and really his ability to just create these immersive sonic environments. It's music that you don't just listen to, you feel it.
And that's especially impressive when you consider that he's primarily working with instrumental music. He's telling stories and evoking emotions without relying on lyrics, which is no easy feat.
Oh, absolutely. And it speaks to the universality of music itself. O'Slide is tapping into something primal, something that transcends language. You don't need to understand the words to feel a longing in a bluesy slide, or the vastness of a desert soundscape.
Yeah, and in a world that's constantly bombarding us with information, it's almost a relief to experience music that invites us to simply be present, to feel, to reflect. Poème, with its focus on the tenor acoustic guitar, seems to really lean into that idea.
Yeah, it's a very minimalist approach for sure. By stripping things back to a single instrument, he's creating space for the listener to truly connect with the nuances of his playing, the emotions woven into every note.
It makes me think about the description of the final track, Poème.
Yeah.
It was intentionally minimalist, almost as if he's leaving it open to interpretation, inviting us to complete the story with our own experiences.
It's a bold move, and it really speaks to the trust he has in his listeners. He's not dictating the narrative. He's inviting us to participate in the creative process.
And that's what makes Poème so exciting. It's not just an album. It's an experience, a journey of discovery. It's a testament to the power of music to transport us, to challenge us, to move us in ways that words often can't.
Absolutely. And the fact that he's achieving this as an independent artist, carving his own path in the music industry, it makes his story even more compelling.
It's inspiring, for sure. It reminds us that success isn't always about chart positions or record deals. It's about creating something meaningful, something that resonates with people on a deeper level.
And Gary O'Slide's music does exactly that. It connects with us on an emotional level, it challenges us to think differently, and it leaves us with a sense of wonder and possibility.
So for anyone listening who's about to experience Poème for the first time, what final piece of advice would you give them?
I would say listen with an open heart and an open mind. Allow yourself to be transported by the music. Don't try to overanalyze it. Just feel it.
Beautifully said. Well, I think we've done this deep dive into the world of Gary O'Slide's justice. I'm personally eager to hear Poème in its entirety, and I hope our listeners are too.
I have a feeling it's going to be a truly special listening experience.
And with that, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Be sure to check out Poème when it drops on November 26th, and explore Gary O'Slide's back catalog to fully appreciate his unique musical journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep listening, and keep diving deep into the sounds that inspire you.